Well, welcome into Buffs Primetime, week number 2 of the college football season. The Buffaloes sitting at 0-1 of the campaign, coming off a loss to TCU last week in the home opener on a Friday night under the lights at Folsom Field. And now we get set for the trip down I-25. What is like 84 miles between the two schools? It's the, how about this note? It's the second closest geographic game in America. Don't ask me who number 1 is. I'm not sure. But only 84 miles between the two schools. Buffs will go down I-25 to take on Air Force on Saturday at 1:30 Mountain Time. 11:30 is the pregame of the Buffalo Stampede pregame show. Gary Barnett, Andy Lindahl, yours truly, and then the Buffs and the Falcons will kick it off for just the second time since 1976. Last time, of course, was in 2019. We'll talk a lot about that Air Force ball game. Let's kind of glance back a little bit. Talk about your week of practice coming off the loss to TCU.
It was a good week. It was, there was a lot of frustration after the game a week ago where guys were just frustrated about how their performance was. The expectations of what we all anticipated didn't happen. And, that was a number of reasons. There was some coaching error. There was some player error, things like that. And we didn't respond, and we ended up losing. So it was a tremendous amount of focus about getting back on the practice field. That was what I was encouraged about the frustration as a coach. We just tried to get back to work. And we did this week. We've had a really productive week. We just came from practice that was indoors. And, these guys are, they know they're better than what that performance was.
Sure. After a game that doesn't go your way, what are you looking for from your team? I mean, obviously there are the X's and O's you got to correct. What do you want to see from your team the next time you get them back on the practice field?
About those things we just talked about, the frustration, the anger about getting things fixed in a hurry, the urgency, knowing the capability of this team that we're playing, on Saturday. So there's an urgency about getting back on track. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's really what it is from a coaching perspective, player perspective. So, we're through with the talking. We talked a lot during the summer and all those things. And now it's, we got a loss under our belt and we got to get our football fixed. And it's just time to get back to work and proving it.
So that was really, and you talked about it after the ballgame. It's a tale of two halves. I mean, the first half, Buffs have 200 and some odd yards of offense, only able to squeeze 6 points out of that. And I'm sure that's something you addressed this week. But that first half, everything started about as well as you could possibly ask for in large part, right?
For the most part, I would say we did move the football. Yeah. That was something that was encouraging about that. We did move it. The points that's the issue. We got to get those points when we are moving the ball early in the game. We got to translate those into 7 points and 6-point opportunities instead of kicking it for 3 points. So. That was really the emphasis this week, was really getting our offense. We have to have more drive efficiency, if that makes any sense to you. So you're driving down and you get a chance to be in a scoring position. You want to come out on top with 6 points instead of 3 points. So we have to emphasize that this week. We feel like we have a really good game plan going against them offensively and against their defense. And so we're looking for some opportunity to really explode and do some positive things this week.
When you guys got down inside the red zone twice there early in the ball game, where were the breakdowns? What was happening down there?
Miscommunication just with the block here and there. Okay. There was a couple things. We were in the red zone. We had a fourth down. We didn't convert, with Belu, and so that was a blocking error. So there's mistakes that are being made, and we see that there were simple things that we shouldn't have had mistakes on, and it's first game jitters, all those things. So we got that out of the system. First game's over with. Now it's just time to go get to work and improve the quality of our football.
Yeah. So then take us to the second half. Okay, things got a little bit different in the second half. What was going on there?
It was going, obviously there was some really good things that were going on offensively we had JT come in late in the second quarter, started his drive on the 1 yard line, and we got a chance to really get an opportunity to throw a Hail Mary. So really when you're in the 1 yard line and there's 2 minutes and some odd seconds left, your goal is really to get 2 first downs.
Sure.
And move the field to translate the field to be on the opposite direction for
and
them
if not for a
drive.
holding penalty, you guys might have gotten points on it.
We might have, yeah. So it was encouraging to see that. So we felt very, very good going in at halftime, feeling like we just needed to shore up a few things. But what happened in the second half, we had some inefficiency with some 3 and outs, and that didn't help. And then with those issues, and then with the defense and the adjustments that they made against our defense, we were trying to figure out what those issues were. So it was strictly getting we were just out of sync in the second half, where offensively we weren't driving efficiently enough, and then defensively we weren't stopping drives, and that's where we had some issues in that third quarter.
Yeah. Take fans kind of behind the scenes a little bit here so they understand. When you talk about adjustments, what happens at halftime with the coaching staff? What are you talking about? And then when things are different in the second half, what are those conversations? How are those communications like?
You're talking about the plays that were errors in the first half, first of all, and you're talking about the scheme that they're presenting against offensively and defensively. What are they doing against us? What have been the big plays that were plaguing us, in terms, so from an offensive standpoint, like where did we get sacked if we had a sack, or where, what happened on that 4th and 1 I was telling you about. So you talk about those issues, but then you also talk about their structure, what you're anticipating, what you're going to see going into the second half, and you're putting together kind of a top 12 list of things that you want to get to, first off, with some of the adjustments that we made in the second half from that discussion at halftime. Okay. So that's offensively. Defensively, you're doing really the same thing. You're probably thinking that, wow, we're controlling this team pretty well. We got to make sure we shore up a few issues, because there was a couple plays that did, the 4th down conversions that they were getting on some sweeps. Right. Those are things that we're discussing with the defensive side. But we didn't think that they had some quarterback run game, but we didn't think that they had as much as what they've proven to have. Now that it's hindsight 2020, it's they had a great deal of 2 or 3 a handful of things that they did with the quarterback that really caused us some problems. So we'll learn from that, and it's one of those things that you really can't anticipate too much or plan for too much is probably the right word, is because it's the first game, new coaching staff. That they have a system of things that what they do. So there's going to be some unscouted looks on both sides of the ball, and you just have to adjust your way through those types of moments in games. And we came up on the short side of it. Yeah.
So in the second half, when things they're hitting you with a couple of things that you guys didn't expect or didn't see coming, whatever it might be, how does that communication work? Are you on the headset with Chris and you're talking to him, and all the defensive coaches are trying to brainstorm? How does that work, Carl?
It works that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It works that way.
All right. All right.
I mean, that's how we all talk. We're on, just like we're talking right now on the headset.
No, I understand it.
It works that way.
I was just wondering how much you get involved, or you leave that to your defensive staff, or specifically, is there a kind of a protocol?
Oh, I see. You're asking how much. Yeah, well, I'm very much involved on both sides. And, when either side's on the field, I'm on that side of the ball that's doing, their efforts on the field. So, the concerns we had with the defense was, what were the leakage, what were the issues, what happened on that play. You couldn't really get that feedback back until the players get off the sideline, until you hear from people from the box and confirmation with the players on the field. So you try to, get your organization done that way. So that's usually the process that works with the quarterbacks coming down from the offensive side. They're saying to Mike Sanford, for example, what he sees, confirming it from what they're seeing upstairs. And then you do the same thing with Kyle Devan and with Clay Patterson in terms of what they're seeing in the run game and protection issues. We were just trying to do some confirmational talk.
Gotcha. From a special team standpoint, last year I think how outstanding that Cole Becker was this year to start off the year. 2 for 2 field goals, 1 of 1 PAT, kicked all of his kickoffs out of the back of the end zone. Last year as a young player, had some early mishaps, if you will. I set that up to bring up Ashton Logan. I mean, he had some nice punts out there, but the first time he went out there, it was kind of a Dick McPherson I worked with years ago. He called a boomerang punt. I think kind of low and come back quick. Yeah. Is that essentially what happened?
Well, and that's basically what happens with a first-year punter with his first start and in his first major game and in that environment. So, but he'll settle in just like Cole settled in a year ago, and Cole's kind of the older brother now because he's got a year under his belt. I'm an old guy. I'm the sophomore now. So he's kind of shedding some light on some things that he went through and how he helped to overcome some of those anxieties too. So it'll work out fine. But he's just got some youthness.
I was going to say you handled Cole so well last year when he had some struggles early on. So I'd imagine you probably handled the same way. When Ashton comes off the field after a punt like that, what do you say to him, or do you say anything to him?
Yeah, you don't say anything to him. No, you don't. You pat him on the butt and say, hey, it happens.
Right.
You keep going. So it's, that's just what's going to happen with a first-year freshman in that situation.
Yeah. Buffalo's coming off the defeat to TSU on the road against Air Force this week. By the way, coming up on the show, we've got defensive coordinator and outside linebackers coach Chris Wilson. He's going to join us. And also Jamar Montgomery, outside linebacker, will join us for our players segment as well. It's the Buffs and Falcons at 1:30 on Saturday at Falcon Stadium. We're at the Post Chicken and Beer in downtown Boulder. We're out here every Thursday for Buffs Primetime. We'll take a break. More with Carl Durrell after this. This is Colorado football from Learfield. Today's show is brought to you by the Post Chicken and Beer with 7 Colorado Front Range locations. The Post brews delicious award-winning beers and fries up the crispiest, juiciest hot chicken around. Fried chicken and beer go together like black and gold football. Stop by the Post for all your game time provisions. And for next week's show, we'll go live the tape on Thursday at 12:30 ahead of the game at Minnesota. Coach Durrell for another segment. Chris Wilson, the defensive coordinator, just got here, and then Jamar Montgomery is going to join us as well. Hey, before we get back to talking football, there's a mainstay around your office that everybody knows. Gino Nog is celebrating her birthday. She's here today.
She is, exactly. Yeah. She is here today. She's celebrating her. I think she turned 35. 35 years old.
37, her husband's saying now, I guess.
Just a quick story on Jean. You know, when I was the offensive coordinator in the 90s and she was, the offensive assistant, we actually had a couple, but Jean was my right-hand person because, she did my game plan for me and, gave me everything that I needed. And then she knew how to keep people away from me, too. I'm serious. I mean, she knew when I was busy and people would try to come up to see me, and she would be very stern about, no, he's busy right now. He's going to have to take a message. So she protected me pretty well. So I'm so happy that she's still with us. So happy birthday, Jean.
Yeah, happy birthday, Jean. She's a mainstay and a great Buff fan, no doubt about that. Colorado down at Air Force this weekend. Before we could talk about Air Force a little bit, you told us both guys were going to play last week. We saw both quarterbacks. Evaluate the two of them for us. What did you see from Belu and Shroud?
I did see some I think good things from both of the guys. The game was hot, and it was interesting how with Brandon Lewis, we had a couple drives there where we were getting some plays stacked up, and he was doing a lot of running and stuff, and he was getting a little bit winded, and he's, some of his anxiety and all that stuff, but he was getting just a little bit winded there. But I thought he played pretty well. He made some plays. He was 8 of 13, I think, in terms of what he was throwing. So he did some good things. It's unfortunate that a couple of those drives, again, like I said, we just didn't get any touchdowns in there, and we needed some touchdowns. Then we brought in JT to get his first series late in the second quarter. We talked about that already. He's just, it's like what I did in baseball, right? It's bases loaded and it's 2 outs, and you don't think the pitcher's going to get this last out, and you go relief. You go, hey, I'm going for a reliever, and it was kind of, we put him in that same situation like in baseball. It's 3 outs and bases loaded, or 2 outs bases loaded. Well, come on in, you're on the 1 yard line. One of those things. So, but he orchestrated a great drive. He came in off the bench, and here's a guy that hasn't played in 2 years. And then he comes in terms of a game, and he drives us. He throws a nice throw to Arias on that drive for a 35-yard gain, and we get a chance, like you said, to score some points. But I think they both did some really positive things. And getting back to it and summarizing both of them, it's just unfortunate. It's two different stories, though. Two different stories in terms of their action, and they both are under the understanding that we got to get better. They want so badly to get this offense moving and going to its capabilities. And we're hopeful that this is going to be the weekend.
I would imagine you have to, when you're doing a balancing act like you are with two guys out there, you got to have the right guys with the right kind of attitude to do that, right?
Right. I think we do. And I think they both understand that because they both clearly know that they have work to do. Right. They need reps. They need playing time. They need to do those things, and so that's just the nature where we are. But I think that there'll be a point in time, and I mentioned this to both of them, that there might be a point in time where one emerges and decides to just, it takes off and goes with it. But until that happens, we're going to probably be in, some similar fashion for a while.
Let's start talking about Air Force. And I got to do something that most people haven't done this week. Whenever they ask you about Air Force, they want to talk about the triple option. I want to start on the defensive side. I'm getting ready for this ball game yesterday, sitting at my desk going over the defensive numbers for Air Force last year were quite impressive. Were certainly last week for their opening game. That's a side of the ball not many people talk about, Carl, but they're pretty darn good, aren't they?
Yeah, they look at the offense most of the time because of all the run average and production they get in. 600 yards of rushing is a lot of yards of rushing, and they were able to do that pretty easily last week. But defensively, like you said, Mark, they are outstanding on defense, and they have the hardest of all worlds because they defend their offense in practice a lot, particularly in camps and stuff like that. So they're having to defend the triple option. But yet they also have to defend the Colorado States and the Nevadas and these programs that are in their conference that are spread out and air raid and doing things like that. So they have to do everything, and they do it well. They really do. So I think our challenge is we need, like I said earlier in the broadcast, we have to have better drive efficiency. We got to get it down there, and we got to get points on the board whenever we get those opportunities to do that. And I'm not saying we got to get 7 points every time we get down in the red zone, but we need to get more touchdowns so that this offense can really start reaching its potential. And then defensively, we talked enough about how much of a challenge it's going to be for us to defend against this offense. That they have a lot of run scheme. They do it really well. They know that they're unique, which is, with the practice time that we have to prepare for a team like Air Force is usually there's not enough practice time to really go against a team like that. But we feel really good about the process we put in place this week. We did the best we could for our current players, the schemes that we're going to put them in, the responsibilities we're going to give them with their jobs to what they need to do. So we feel like we've really made it more specific for our players to perform well.
That defense for them a year ago, by the way, they were top 16 in total defense and scoring defense a year ago in the NCAA, so they were outstanding. When we hear people talk about going against the triple option, we hear the phrase, be assignment sound, all the time. Explain for everybody what that means and what exactly you're talking about and why that's important for your team.
No, you're getting ready to have the defensive coordinator explain that in tremendous detail after me.
I thought I'd really get a PhD from him.
But what it means is you do have to, have guys that have responsibilities for, they starts with the inside play, which is the dive, and then the quarterback, if he keeps it, who has him, and then if he pitches it, who has the pitch. So there's assignments for all three of those areas, let alone, there's blocking schemes that we have to defeat and all those things. So that's what that means in terms of being assignment conscious. What gets you in trouble playing a team like Air Force is that if your eyes are bad, if you don't see where the ball is, then there's going to be problems. And they do a good job with a lot of the things that they do with their meshes. That's why it's so challenging to defend an offense like this, because their meshes with their quarterback and backs and all those things are challenging to see at times. It happens pretty fast.
It really is. And you think of, I heard somebody once say about this kind of offense, and their guy is Zeke Daniels, their senior quarterback. That guy's like a point guard. He's the one making the decisions, right, on where the ball goes or when the handoff happens. And so that's obviously your first read, the guy you're paying attention to, and then everything follows him?
Well, the first read's the dive, the back, and then it goes from there, in terms of the quarterback and the other things that he does. But what's unique about this guy, I think he's a really good player, and obviously they do too. He's a returning starter. He throws the ball, even though they don't throw it very much. Right. He throws the ball pretty dang well. Okay. So they get you sucked up in there, and then they go over the top of you. So it's going to be a lot of, like you said, you have to have good eyes. Mm-hmm. And you're asking me the explanation, how do you defend an offense like this? You got to have great eyes. You have to be able to keep an eye on your assignment. And everybody has to do that for a 60-minute ball game. And so it's, you're whatever that is. How many plays is that? 65, 70 plays of really concentrative work of really trying to focus on doing your job.
And to the point, when you got young guys, like, for example, in your secondary, that they can't get comfortable. There was a run.
Right.
There's a run. And you start creeping up, and next thing you know,
it's a pass.
Going over the
There you go. That's the challenge that everybody faces when you play against a caliber team like Air Force.
Right. So it's really a mentally taxing assignment for a team to play.
It is mentally and physically. Yep. Because the physical part, if you don't recognize things soon enough to, they'll continue to road grade you to you figure this thing out. So it's a challenge. It really is. But I think our guys, we're excited about it in a way. We've had a great week of practice. We feel like we have a really good plan, against them. We know that they're going to be able to run the football.
Yeah.
They're going to be able to. Nobody shuts down Air Force. They're going to be able to run the football. The challenge is to not get too many big plays. You want to try to minimize the things that we just had this last week. Our TCU game, we had 7 quarterback runs or somewhat similar runs for 200 yards, but we had the other 23 runs were less than 3 yards a carry.
Right.
So that's something that we needed to shore up from what we did last week, and then now facing Air Force, we can't let those opportunities get out at all.
Say that number again. 7 plays.
We had 7 carries in the game against our defense that amounted to 200-plus yards of their rushing. And then the other 23 carries they had, they were less than 3 yards a carry.
Yeah. So the bulk of the time, the Buffs were doing the job. They were just a handful of
We just didn't finish the job. Yeah, we didn't finish it.
Well, the pageantry down there around the academy is always interesting and fascinating. And I know your father was a military man. You got great appreciation for it, although he was Navy. So,
yep.
Yeah, you got extra motivation to win this ball game then. Yeah. With Dad calling you.
Yeah. Anything and everything I can get, I need.
I like it. Coach, good luck this weekend.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, there is head coach Carl Durrell. He and the Buffaloes down at Air Force on Saturday afternoon at 1:30. Our program brought to us by Hilton's on Candy. Are you coming to Boulder for a game? Stay at the Hilton's on Candy, the official hotel at CU Athletics. And when you do, come here to the Post Chicken and Beer and grab yourself a great pre- or post-game meal. We're out here every Thursdays at 12:30 for Buffs Primetime. It airs on the network later on tonight at 7 o'clock on our flagship in Denver from 8 till 9 tonight on 850 KOA. We'll take a break. The aforementioned Chris Wilson, the defensive coordinator, is going to join us next. This is Colorado football from Learfield. Hey, Buffs fans looking for a place to cheer on the Buffaloes? Head to join Buff Nation, rather, at the official CU Watch Party locations in Colorado, the Schoolhouse in Arvada, and Blake Street Tavern in Denver. We're back here at the Post Chicken and Beer in downtown Boulder. Come and see us Thursdays from 12:30 to 1:30. We're out here for the taping, going live to tape with Buffs Primetime. Time for our assistant segment. Joining us is the defensive coordinator and the outside linebackers coach, Chris Wilson. Welcome.
Welcome. It's good to be here.
You bet. All right, take us to last week. Give us, you and I were just having a conversation about last week's game. First half, boy, you guys on defense seem to have them clamped down pretty good.
Well, yeah, it was a tale of two halves. Yeah. We come out first half, and we play pretty dominant. They come out, I think they had 19 total plays. The one thing that was a big attribute, we knew that it was going to be a pass-first offense, and our secondary did a tremendous job of generating these guys and getting them out of the seams. There weren't a lot of balls to be thrown over the middle of the field, which we knew they were a big-time middle-of-the-field passing game system. And our secondary with Rod Chance and with Brett Maxey did a tremendous job. And secondly, we were able to obviously get some pressure on him at times and make him throw from a really tight pocket. Second half, obviously, the change occurred when they came out and they said, well, we got to run the football.
Yeah, we can't throw it.
Can't throw it. Their starting quarterback, Morris, was injured. And so now they came out and said, we got to make a run to run the football. So we had about 30 snaps in the run game. And as Coach Durrell talked about so eloquently earlier, is we had 23 of those were for 3 yards or less. Yeah. But the design quarterback runs became a bit of an issue. Sure. And so we're trying to go out and cover everybody. So now you got a light box, and you only got 5 guys inside the box, and 7 runs popped. Yeah. And those were the things that really changed the dynamic of the football game.
Young defense, how'd you guys tackle in that game?
Oh, there was some, like most people early in the season, there are always going to be a few missed tackles. Sure. And we have it, but for overall, the tackling was pretty well. We got into some one-on-one opportunities in space, and they executed. The one wrong run that they popped with the running back, number 33, or I believe it was. We had one guy for one guy. He made a guy miss, and there's a touchdown. The key is to never let it get to the secondary.
Sure, exactly.
And so that was the biggest deal. So tackling, I would say, was average.
In the first half, when they were trying to throw the ball, and I wondered going in with your young secondary, how those guys would react. Generally speaking, you felt that they covered pretty well?
They covered extremely well. Yeah. When you look at the design reverses, which are counted as a pass, they only threw the ball for 80 yards.
Right.
Physically throwing the ball down the field 80 yards. And so they had a couple jet sweeps that obviously count as in the passing game. So they defended extremely well. If someone else keeps TCU to 80 yards, I'll be really impressed in the passing game.
Without question. Yeah. What did you find with your guys after the ball game when you got back together with them on Sunday or Monday on the defensive side of the ball? What was kind of their demeanor?
They were ready to get back to work. Yeah. They were disappointed. But, the culture of this program is really changing. It wasn't nonchalant. It hurt, and it should. Yeah. And my message, as well as Coach Durrell's message, was remember this. That's the only way you get better. You have to remember these kind of moments, and so you don't have to keep reliving them.
Yeah.
And so that's been the whole deal. We took ownership of everything. We talked about the things that we can control and fix, and that's been the mantra for the rest of the week.
All right, let's get talking about this Air Force machine that you're going to kind of defend. Carl gave us the broad strokes a little while ago. The uniqueness of getting ready for that game, first off, is different than anything else you're going to get ready for all season long.
They are the run and shoot of running.
Okay, all right.
If you want to put it in they have every design run. Not only when people think about their triple option plan, because they do run the triple option real well with the dive, the quarterback, and the pitch. However, they run inside zone well. They run power well. They run gap schemes well. They have all the answers to the questions.
Sure. Right.
And they've been in it for so long, they understand their systems and the things that are required based off of every defensive front they'll see.
Well, I was going to say, you've got a staff that's been there a long time.
Yes.
Right? So they perfected this thing and then kept adding to it as time has gone on, correct?
No question.
Yeah.
One thing they do is they're very multiple. They can get in and out of different looks quickly, and they can do it from the sideline. I'm talking about instantaneous. They don't have to go to the sideline and get a timeout.
Right.
They can look you and say, okay, these are the looks that we're going to get in this series. These are the plays we're going to run. So they're very segmented. And I understand why. I was at West Point briefly. These guys are some of the brightest minds in the world. And they are really well prepared. They're really well trained, and they're doing it with really good athletes, especially at the quarterback position.
Yeah. You like him. I mean,
I like him a lot.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. I have a lot of respect for what he does to their program. His ability to manage that much volume on offense is really, really impressive.
Were you at Army with Todd Berry?
I was there with Todd Berry.
I was going to say, yeah. But Chris and I crossed paths 25 years ago at Illinois State. And the one thing I'll never forget, one time when Todd had been there a few months, you guys had been there, like Todd and I were talking on the phone, and I said something. He goes, we had a little issue the other day. I said, well, how'd you deal with that? He says, we don't deal with disciplinary issues in football at the academies, right? And it speaks to the system that these young people are involved in.
Yes.
It explains why they're just so disciplined on the football field, right?
It is, because their ultimate design is to protect our country.
Yeah.
So football is truly fun for them.
Right, I bet.
Because they do the things that are required for this to be one of the greatest countries in the world. So they have a really, really different way of seeing life at 18 and 19 years old.
I bet they do.
They do.
Yeah. So talk about the idea of being assignment sound when you're facing this offense. What are you guys looking for? Every different level, kind of go run through what these guys are looking for.
Well, to be quite honest, is that way every week.
Okay.
They just add multiple variables.
All right.
So I always talk to the players about the powers in your eyes. Great players have great eyes. They can anticipate things based off of their keys. We call them ASCAs, which are alignment, stance, key, and assignment. So those are the four primary things you do prior to a play even snapping. So we've got to do a great job of getting our eyes in the right place, because there's four key components when you're dealing with a triple option. Number one is the dive. You got to take away the dive. That's the fullback game. Number two is the quarterback. Number three is the pitch, but one that sometimes people forget is the alley player, because they'll have a blocker for the first three. The alley is the bonus guy that you've got to have that can overlap and go make plays for you. And so that's going to be critical. And the problem with that is times you leave somebody with a receiver one-on-one, and that's when they make a lot of their explosive plays.
Right. So everyone's got the assignments.
Yes.
And if you start to cheat at any one time, that's when it can kind of bust you.
I always tell guys, if you take shortcuts, you'll get cut short. Definitely in this game.
That's pretty good.
And definitely in this game.
It really, and I mentioned this with Carl, it really becomes, every game's physically taxing. We understand that. It's college football at this level, it's going to be. This really becomes a mental game at some point, doesn't it?
It really is. But that is very, very true. But at the same point, it's still football.
Right.
It's still going to be about your ability to get off blocks, run to the football, and tackle. That will never change. So we can talk about the assignments, which are paramount, but the really, really important thing is your ability to get off blocks. Number two is to get your tail to the football as hard and as fast as you can. And then three, making physical tackles, because if they'll go for it on fourth down, and I think they're generating about 80% on fourth down. If they can get 3 yards of carry on 4th and 1,
sure,
they're going for it.
Right.
And so that's a pretty hard combination, because they can get 3 on first down, 3 on second down, and next time you know they're on 3rd and 4, which is a manageable down in their scheme.
Yeah.
And so we've got to find a way to generate some negative plays.
You got some great guys on your side of the ball, young. They're absorbing like sponges right now at this level, right? You got a sense your guys are kind of excited about this challenge?
They are. Yeah. Like I said earlier, the biggest thing is the standard has changed. We obviously know that our business is our profession is coaches and players, but the business side of it is winning. Mm-hmm. And so, that's the goal. We want to find a way every week to come out with a victory. And again, I'm not disappointed about, that would be untrue. I am disappointed about not being able to finish the game the way we should. However, it's still a lot of football in front of us, and I'm excited about this next opportunity with Air Force.
Yeah. Was there anybody heading into that ball game last week, one of the young fellas, you weren't sure what to expect from that, really jumped out at you and said, man, I'm proud of that young man for what he was able to do?
A lot of them.
Probably a number of them.
There were a number of them. Every year in college football, especially the way it's designed now, you're going to have new faces. Mm-hmm. And so there were so many young guys that came out and competed across the board. And sometimes it might have been 2-3 plays on special teams. Mm-hmm. So it didn't always involve scrimmage plays. But I thought the whole group went out and competed. The biggest thing is finishing. We've got to learn how to, when we get in these situations and the games are close, we have got to strain to finish these games and come out on top.
We're going to, for a player segment coming up here momentarily, Jamar Montgomery is going to join us. Mm-hmm. I know you really like this young man.
I like him a lot.
Yeah.
I'm grateful to have a chance to coach these guys. Obviously, I was with the defensive front the previous 2 seasons. And so now getting a chance to work with those guys. And, again, it's a smaller room compared to those guys. And again, the meal bill isn't as expensive as more. They're not as big. But it's good because they have to tie into a bunch of different things. Not only are they in the rush procedure, the run procedure, but they also play pass run. They play passes. And so there's a lot of multiplicity with that room and those guys.
You have, correct me if I'm wrong, you primarily as a position guy been a D-line coach for a long time, right?
Yeah, for the meat and potatoes. When I was with Todd, prior to being with Todd at the West Point days, I had been a linebacker coach and a corners coach for a long time. But when you gain 50 pounds, you don't always look like that. But I'm working on it.
So how's the transition been for you to kind of working with the outside guys?
It's been really great. I think Jamar can answer better than me,
right?
Because he's dealing with me every day. But I just try to communicate effectively and make sure we're getting everything we need week to week. And again, I try. My dad used to say, never major in the minors.
Right.
And we try not to major in the minor things, but we do want to pay attention to detail, and we want to cross all our T's and dot all our I's when we're out there.
There we go. I like it. Well, go out and have some success on Saturday, will you?
Thank you so much.
All right, Chris Wilson, defensive coordinator, outside linebackers coach for the Buffaloes. He'll take on Air Force at 1:30 on Saturday afternoon. We hit the air at 11:30 with the pregame show here on the Colorado Football Network. Our players segment, Jamar Montgomery is going to join us next. This is Colorado Football from Learfield. Back once again, our final segment here on Buffs Primetime as we come to you live from the Post Chicken and Beer in downtown Boulder, out here on Thursdays from 12:30 to 1:30, going live. The tape show will air on our network affiliates at 7 on our flagship on 850 KOA from 8 till 9 in Denver. And joining us, outside linebacker Jamar Montgomery out of Birmingham, Alabama. How are you?
Doing good, going great. Good to see you, Mark.
Yeah, good to see you. Glad you can make it here today.
Yes,
tell us about the week a little bit. I know that one kind of stung on Friday night. How are you guys kind of reacting in the locker room?
Oh, it's reacting good. It's a different scheme and it's a different look how we're coming towards everything, but everyone's seeming to take the information good and we're getting on a good start.
So, but I would imagine, like I said, it stung on Friday night, but as I think Carl said, he told you guys not to forget how it feels, right?
Yep.
And use that as motivation?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. It's a bad taste in your mouth. You look at it, but that's the thing about being in the season. We got 11 more in front of us, so we got to keep it moving.
Exactly right. Give us some of your background. I mentioned from Birmingham, Alabama. Tell us about your family.
Yes, sir. I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. Single mom growing up. 3 siblings, 2 brothers, 1 older sister.
Okay.
She actually passed this past January, and that guy, I just had to mention and bring it up. Coach Wilson, he was up here on the stage talking to you guys. That was the first guy I called, gave a call to.
Is that
my
right?
sister didn't pass.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
I appreciate
about your
that.
sister.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So you got 2 younger brothers.
Yes, sir.
Are they athletes too?
They were. Well, now I have 2 older brothers.
Oh, 2 older brothers.
Yeah,
so you're the baby of the family.
I'm the baby of the family.
Well,
yeah.
look at you.
My oldest brother played at Grambling State, and one of them played at Alcorn State.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Were you always a football player?
No, I wasn't actually. I grew up playing basketball. Then I found out I was good at it in high school, and I was like, I can go to school for free.
For playing football?
Yeah, so I said, why not try it out? So it turned out for the best.
How much older are your brothers than you?
My oldest brother is 31, and my other brother is 26. So,
okay. And what are you, 21?
22.
22 right
Yes,
now?
sir.
Okay, so a few years younger. Were you the best athlete in the family?
I would say now because I've done it longer.
And they're getting old and decrepit. Is that what you're getting at?
Exactly. Yeah.
But so did you think about? I know you said you realized you're a good football player.
Yes, sir.
Did you think about pursuing basketball?
Not really. It was more so just a pickup thing for me.
Okay.
Sports really wasn't my thing growing up. My family made it very clear for me. I grew up from a background everyone played sports. They made it. I don't just have to do sports,
Right.
but it was a decision for my own, so that's what I chose.
Well, when you look like this, you're big and strong, and why wouldn't you?
I know
right?
I had some genetics growing up. Sure.
I think so.
Yeah.
So why Colorado? Now, you went to Independence Junior College,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yep.
So that's where you started.
Yep. Well, that will tell you one from why I chose this. I mean, going from Independence, Kansas to going to this is a completely different thing. So, yep. And getting inside of like the mountains, everything's a culture shock for me really here. But everything turned out pretty well my last 3 years here.
Okay. All right. So as a junior college player, was it right from the get-go, as soon as Colorado started recruiting you, you thought this is where I'm going?
Yep. I got in contact around the Mel area and talking to the 2019 staff. They got in pretty good with me at Georgia, so it turned out in transition here.
Okay.
So everything worked out that way.
Okay, so Mel, when he was at Georgia, had contacted you and then eventually came here. And
Yes, sir.
That's got to be tough for a young man. You make a decision to go someplace. So you'd been recruited by Mel when he was at Georgia.
Yep.
Then he becomes a head coach, begins talking to you here. And then after 9 or 10 months, he's gone. You got a new coaching staff. That's a challenge. You got to grow up pretty quick under those circumstances. Don't
Yeah,
you?
and it worked out for the best. Honestly, I wouldn't change anything from the jump for me. So whatever happens, I feel like whatever needs to happen needs to happen.
Based on what you just said, Chris Wilson obviously is a big impact in your life, mentor, if you will.
Yes, sir.
Talk about that.
Yeah, it's bigger than ball with him. That's just how it is. It's not really all about ball with him. And someone you can go to and talk to outside of the frame of football in this lifestyle has definitely helped.
Yeah.
Yep.
He can be a very demanding coach, can he not?
Yeah, he can for sure.
Is he easy to play for under that respect?
Yeah, of course. Because I mean, he makes you want to go out there and play. He makes you want to. He makes you want to do whatever he's telling you to do in a good way. So I'm thankful to have him as my coach.
There's no excuses, is there?
No, sir.
They don't want to hear
No, sir.
excuse number one from you.
No, but it makes my level go up. And it makes my play go up. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So give us a comment or two here in the last couple of minutes about the challenge you've got. What you heard Chris talking about defensively, what's expected of you guys from your perspective, from a player's perspective. Talk about that matchup on Saturday.
I mean, it's just us going out and doing our job at the end of the day. Like, it's a different scheme, like I said, but we have a great plan going in, and whatever we need to do is going to be done. So we feel confident, and that's what we're going to go out and do.
Yeah. It really is a mental game, though, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Saturday, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's all mental, really. I mean, you got obviously the physical part of it, but if you're not keyed in with your eyes and your mental aspect of the game, you're kind of lacking it. So
You like the way your teammates on the defensive side of the ball have kind of approached this week?
yeah, everyone wants to play for each other. That's the biggest thing now. Everyone had their ideas of this guy doing that, but everyone came in together and everyone wants to play with each other. So it started out good.
And what you're talking about is a little bit of what we heard from Carl through the preseason, through camp, about culture and energy and what you guys are building internally. Last week can't affect that, can it?
Yeah, I mean, you said that.
I said that last week's not going to affect that, correct?
Oh.
That's going to continue moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. We built that when we touched down, when we came back in January.
Yeah.
We were building that ever since, that chemistry and whatever aspect that needs to be taken care of outside of the game. Because when in the game, everyone's locked in and keyed in when they work.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Go out there on Saturday. Have a good time. Enjoy yourself. Let's come back with a W. How's it sound?
Yeah, no question. Got to get you guys up for sure.
I like it. There's Jamar Montgomery, outside linebacker of your Colorado Buffaloes. He and the Buffs will take on Air Force on Saturday. Again, that's a 1:30 ball game down at Falcon Stadium. Gary and Andy and I are going to hit the air at 11:30 on the Colorado Football Network with the pregame show, and then the Falcons and the Buffs at 1:30. Come and join us next week. We're back out here at the Post, Chicken and Beer from 12:30 to 1:30, going live to tape on Thursday of next week. Come on out, grab a great lunch, and enjoy some Colorado football talk. And we'll talk to you next week. Next, we'll talk to you actually from Colorado Springs on Saturday. This is Colorado football from Learfield.